The University of Lethbridge is one of the only universities in Canada that has more female athletes than male athletes. That's because while many schools have a male football team, the U of L instead has a female rugby team. A team that has cemented themselves not only in Southern Alberta history, but in all of Canada. Having just celebrated 25 years of Horns Rugby, we thought we'd speak to the people that have been here since the beginning.
Hello, I'm Susan Iman, the Executive Director of the Lethbridge Sport Council. We are proud to welcome you to the YQL Stories, which stands for Your Quality Life Stories, where we have the privilege to talk with friends we've met through sport. We're pleased to have you join us to hear about their experiences and explore how sport and active living can impact your quality life.
I spoke with JJ Ondrus and Neil Langevin about making the Pronghorn women's rugby team a successful and long-lasting program. First, I asked them how they got involved with rugby.
My story is because I'm a mediocre athlete. I moved to BC when I was grade 10 and playing high school basketball and football rugby, and a local rugby coach saw me play basketball and he told me I wasn't very good at basketball, but that he thought he had a sport for me.
And I started in grade 12 at high school. The high school league in Southern Alberta was just emerging, and some friends at my school said, hey, you'd probably be good at rugby. Why don't you come play with me? So we took about 5 of us over across the street and played at a different high school because we didn't have enough for a team. But that's how I started, and then I started at the club that same spring.
After their introduction into rugby, both JJ and Neil were members here at the Lethbridge Rugby Club and always held a place for rugby while JJ was in university and Neil was coaching at a local high school. JJ and Neil have both been a part of the Pronghorn women's rugby team since the inaugural season in 2000. JJ was an original player and one of the first people on the roster in 1999. After her eligibility ran out with one more year of school to go, it seemed only natural that she continue her rugby career as assistant coach with the Pronghorns because of her strong leadership skills and her understanding of the game.
So I hadn't graduated university, but I had used my 5 years of eligibility. So I still had a year, I think, or a semester, whatever. I was doing my education degree, an after degree, and so Neil had just invited me out. He had seen some leadership qualities, and my first year was more of I was a practice player still. I was being mentored how to coach from Neil, and then I was mentoring players on how to show up at practice and be a player.
So I saw in JJ, it's the skill set in educators, kind of the willingness to do that, as well as she played Canada West Sport. Was one of the few players that was actually somewhat prepared to play in that. And I also knew in Lethbridge there's not a lot of rugby coaches, and so always said you kind of got to manufacture them, you've got to help make them. So I thought, what a better way to get somebody with this skill set to let's bring her along.
JJ has remained a part of the coaching staff for over 20 years and is still a key member and main connection for alumni. Neil was one of the founders of Horns Rugby alongside Toby Boulay. Toby managed and Neil coached. So I asked them, how did it all begin?
As a player, I just remember being invited to a player meeting. I know Toby a couple of years prior to that had said, don't play soccer, we're going to have a rugby team. And I was like, yeah, right. I couldn't even still imagine that.
Well, actually, we came up with the idea of the team. Toby and I. So we had seen the success that had happened up in the team. We just won a national title in their very first year. And we said, well, why can't we have an opportunity to have a team and have a sport here competitive for young women to play? And so we approached Sandy at the athletic department, and she said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So it was literally out of the success of U of A and just knowing that we needed more sport here in Southern Alberta. The other group that was really important was the Lethbridge Rugby Club. So Toby and I were members there, and we convinced the campaign with the board there to actually seed the program as well. So they actually gave money. And then from there, we basically got to a spot where we were taking a high school boys team in New Zealand and thought we're going to get a club coach, and we're going to get that coach then to coach the Pronghorns. And so we hired a coach who came to Lethbridge to coach the club, and started early and started coaching the Pronghorns the first week or so. And then what happened was our New Zealand coach, he got called back basically to New Zealand to take a professional job. And so we were already in camp and started. And so I looked and okay, I'll step up and do it for this year. Within 2 months after that, I was hooked.
Here at Nicholas Sharon Field is where the rugby team would practice for the first 9 years. Neil Langevin would load up his car with rugby balls and pads borrowed from Winston Churchill High School in order to hold practice. A story Neil likes to tell about the first years of Horns rugby is that he was not only the coach, but also the trainer, the roadie, the bus driver, and anything else the team might need. But he doesn't look back on this as a sacrifice.
You know, my background of being an educator, I think that's just what we do. Every coach, you wind up doing all those things, and I didn't think it was going to be any different. You know, Toby was busy with hockey that year, so yeah, there was not a lot of money or resources, and frankly, the rugby community in Lethbridge was very small, and so yeah, there weren't a lot of people. But you know, what made it easy was actually leaders, like JJ. Early, it's like there's certain things that might be done by management that players did, and there was no moaning, there was no whining. It's just, this is the way we're going to do it, and we're happy to go do it. So, although it's kind of a fun story to say, yeah, I did all of those things, it didn't seem as onerous as it might sound.
When recalling the early seasons and challenges that came with it, JJ and Neil remember nothing but support from their community, and that was actually outside sources that perceived Southern Alberta to be lacking in athletics.
It might have been against UBC, and I think it was a close game, and the touch judge basically asked me, how did I get all the girls from BC to move out to Lethbridge to go to school? I believe that anybody in Southern Alberta, the women could play rugby. And, you know, that would probably be one of the biggest things I wouldn't have expected, was actually support from the community and from the university community for women's sport. Even though I know there's been challenges, I can honestly say I've not really ever experienced it as like, no, because it's a women's sport. I don't think that was ever JJ identified. It was Southern Alberta or small schools, not the Southern Alberta community that really stepped up to support us.
With the support of the community, the Pronghorn women's rugby team quickly gained steam, becoming one of the top teams in the nation. In 2003, after just 3 seasons, they came second in nationals, losing to only the University of Alberta. I asked JJ and Neil what the first trip of nationals was like.
We knew the competition because of U of A. We hadn't overcome the challenge of beating them yet, but we didn't know what the other conferences could bring. So we weren't sure how we would stack up against the other conferences. So then when we got there were the weather was a bit of an equalizer. We had depowered scrums because of the snow and ice. So we were able to be a little bit creative with positioning at the scrum. So it just gave an interesting twist on some of the finer details of the game.
For me, also, coupled with that was showing how tough the players from Pronghorns can be. So the cold weather was, everybody thinks obviously Lethbridge, that the prairies are cold all the time, but we're not. But we toughed it out against McGill. McGill, they were scared and did not want to play. And so we lost to them, but it was a tight game. And then Western we played. They were a pretty good team, like some national team players. They, I thought they did some silly things. They warmed up for 45 minutes outside at -30. We warmed up in the change room, stomping our feet and dancing, those sort of things. Just the toughness, and had the same thing in the semifinal. That's probably one of my favorite wins. To get the same effects in the semifinal, and then even U of A in the final. It's like, okay, like you said, we knew the standard, so we knew we were close. So we're not shocked to be at the tournament. We had already beaten UBC by then, but we were in hindsight at 3 years into pretty exceptional. So.
After the Horns' third season, Neil gained recognition with Rugby Canada, making him the Canadian women's coach for the 2006 World Cup hosted in Edmonton. This was also around the time when the Horns decided to host nationals in 2008. I asked them what preparation went into hosting.
The group of us decided we were going to host nationals in 2008. And then we, like Toby and Neil had created a formula of you need this many local players, but then you need a couple players who are imports who bring you that impact into the team. And so the recruiting started probably in 2005, I'm going to say.
Yeah, maybe a little bit 2004. Yeah, a little bit more.
2005 would have been Ashley Patzer's grad year. That's a once in a lifetime really player. And then, players like Shannon Court coming in the next year, Kendra Reeves, I could name the whole roster really, but the recruiting started a couple of years before, and then the plan was to win in 2008. So it was not surprise, it was thought out and prepared for it.
Becoming first in the nation is clearly not something that happens overnight. It takes years of dedication from coaches and managers that truly believe in their program. This dedication, along with talented players from Southern Alberta and all over Canada, is what made the Pronghorns championship winners 3 years in a row.
I think it's a combination of all that. It's kind of the right time, the right community. It's just a perfect storm of good athletes who really did like one another. That nucleus is still probably our strongest alumni in terms of stay together. The overall culture and atmosphere was one of genuine concern and but let's get better together. And I use that phrase a lot. That I think that was the goal. It's just to get better. It's not necessarily to win, but to get better.
2007 was actually Ashley was not with us. She was at a Canada camp. And so we had to move some players around, and that was really a battle, fought out. But then I remember 2009, Neil said, this is a special team. You just sit back and enjoy. And really, we go play. We didn't do a lot of coaching. That tournament, was writing down names on paper, but that was a special year.
It was a special team that cemented them in history, landing them a well-deserved place in the CanWest Hall of Fame. The plaque is commemorating the 2007, 2008, and 2009 team and coaching staff for 3 national titles, 5 CanWest titles, and for the 2009 perfect season where they won 13 straight games. It's true that it was a special team, but it was also a special coaching staff that led them to victory. And since 2009, the team has continued to be competitive in CanWest. JJ and Neil have continued their roles searching and driving the culture in Lethbridge. I asked them what has kept them here for 25 years.
For me, it's people, relationships. For me, it doesn't feel like a sacrifice, giving up. It's just what I did. It was always a part of my life, so it doesn't feel different. To go, it feels different not to go. Actually.
I think I get more from it than I do. It just feels that way. Last year would be a prime example. It's not hard to go to practice. And it's funny, we've been involved for 25 years or so, and it does not seem like 25.
As the Pronghorn women's rugby team celebrates 25 years, it's clear that this program was built by people that care about their players. For these coaches, it was never about results. It was about growth, connection, and culture. And that's what's made this program so strong. The last question I asked JJ and Neil is, what do they hope for the future of Pronghorn rugby?
It's funny, I'm going to say it's not outcomes. It's again, national championships going to happen. We're fighting to do that, but I think just continued good experience. I think we're in pretty good hands. We have a really good coach, and right now the current players, I think we may see another big jump. Yeah, and then good outcomes, and you start riding something that's good. So just more chances for young women to have an incredible experience.
What he taught me when I first started coaching is it's most important to be a good person. And the rugby kind of takes care of itself. You can teach the X's and O's, but the most important thing is that culture. So just like graduating really capable, strong female athletes into a community who they understand the importance of giving back, like coaching at their high school, even if maybe it's not in Lethbridge, but wherever they go. So yeah, just I think continuing to sort of pay it forward. Like, I can never give back to rugby what's given to me either. So continuing that to perpetuate throughout our program.
Thank you, JJ Ondrus and Neil Langevin, for talking to us about the legacy of Horns Rugby. And hopefully you're inspired to come check out the Horns in action this season at the Community Stadium. The Horns are at home September 13th, 20th, and October 4th at the Community Stadium. Looking to make a difference? Sign up to our volunteer portal to get matched with opportunities that align with your skills, interests, and time. No commitment, no account needed. Explore the volunteer opportunity section and visit the community section to read the latest announcements about upcoming major events and celebrate amazing volunteers. The Lethbridge Sport Council Sport Directory is a complete directory of local, provincial, and national sport organizations listed by sport. Find local sport clubs, leagues, and organizations, as well as provincial and national sport associations. Visit our sport directory today.